All right. So thank you all so much for joining today. Wishing you a very warm congratulations on your admission to Northeastern University. Today's webinar will review the best practices for completing your I-20, and I will address some of the frequent mistakes that cause delays in the I-20 process. My name is Kelly Igorova. I am the Assistant Director for Graduate Admissions here at Northeastern University, and I am also one of the members of the CVIS Contact team here at Northeastern. I have the great honor of being joined today by Rohan Naik, who is one of our graduate student ambassadors, and he will be here to help answer some of the questions that you have, and will be sure to introduce himself later on in the presentation. Finally, I work very closely with Daniel Pierbrudugov, who is a member of the Office of Global Services, and my close colleague Daniel will hope to join us this afternoon. For those of you who are in the Eastern Hemisphere, and for those in the Western Hemisphere, he'll be joining us hopefully this morning. A few introductory notes as we begin. There will be current staff and students moderating today's session. Please send your questions through the chat or Q&A window, and a member of the team will record the question and we will answer it hopefully in the Q&A session. No need to send your question multiple times. Know that we are keeping a close eye on that window, and we'll be sure to answer as many questions as we're able to. We hope that most of the information covered in today's session answers many of your questions, but as always, there will be room for Q&A toward the end. We will focus on all campuses for which the College of Engineering has on-ground courses, which are our Boston, Silicon Valley, and Seattle campuses. A recording will be available and distributed following today's presentation. Today's agenda will cover the I-20 process and the timeline and understanding how the system works here at Northeastern. We will review acceptable documents and frequent mistakes, including passports, fixed deposit, balance certificates, certificates of deposit, and affidavits. So if your questions pertain to these, I kindly ask that you wait until we cover the session and then send along any questions through the chat window that you might have. We'll also review the details of the I-20 process, including how eShip Global works, what eShip Global is, best practices for contacting staff, and the next steps as you begin your journey here to Northeastern. And finally, as mentioned, we'll have a Q&A session at the end, for which we'll answer as many questions as we're able to that you've sent through the chat or the Q&A windows. Let's begin. Northeastern is committed to helping you throughout the entire visa process. The important materials that are required for your I-20 form include the Data E form, for which you have received a link in your decision letter or through your email, your passport, financial documents, an affidavit of support if required, and a transfer-in form if you are currently residing in the United States and hold an F1 visa and will be transferring to Northeastern for the fall 2019. For those of you who are outside of the United States, you are considered an initial I-20 student and you are not required to complete a transfer-in form. Please be sure to follow the below guidelines when submitting your I-20 request to avoid delays in the process. All documents must meet the requirements before submitting your request. You must submit your request as early as possible to allow the team enough time to process your I-20. Allow 4 to 6 weeks for the university to review your request, although we are working to issue documents as quickly as possible. And so we actually hope to issue documents within 3 to 4 weeks, but just know that a high volume of I-20 requests come in and we process them as quickly as we can. Requests are reviewed by the Office of Global Services in the order for which the acceptable documents are received, which means that if you submit an I-20 request and you have an error that your financial documents or your passport do not follow the guidelines that are outlined here, as well as on the Data E form and on the instructions that have been provided to you, we cannot expedite your request once we receive the updated documents. The timeline that we give, 3 to 6 weeks, really begins from the date that we receive all acceptable documents. So please keep that in mind before you submit your request. And remain patient. We'll be sure to let you know if there's an issue with your request. So here is the way that the submission works. When you submit an I-20 request, you will receive an email. The email will tell you that your form is incomplete. That means it is under review by the admissions pre-arrival team, which is myself and 2 other members of the team here in the College of Engineering admissions office. Once we have reviewed your documents and pre-approved your I-20 request, we will send your request on to the Office of Global Services, who will do final review, issuance of your I-20, and shipping. If you have a question about your I-20 status, you may find this by logging in to the My OGS system, and this will be much more time efficient than contacting myself or a member of the admissions team or the Office of Global Services, as we do need to review a high volume of requests, and that takes priority. So if your request says incomplete, it is with us. And if your request says that it is under review or in final review, it is with the Office of Global Services. And again, the full process from time of submission to the time that your I-20 is ready for shipment will take anywhere between 3 to 6 weeks. Acceptable documents, as mentioned in your I-20 request, these are some of the most frequent mistakes that we see, and I'll go into each of them in more detail throughout the webinar. Passport must be in color. Your passport cannot be a black and white scanned copy. And all numbers at the bottom of the page that has your photo on it must be readable. If I can't see the edges of your passport, I'm not able to accept it. If your passport is not in color, I'm not able to accept it. Financial documents must demonstrate liquidity, or we won't be able to accept your document. And this is a spot of common confusion, and I'm happy to review this as we continue through the webinar. And affidavit of support are required for any sponsor who is not your spouse, mother, father, sister, or brother. So if your aunt or your grandmother or grandfather or a friend of the family will be supporting your finances, please be sure to submit an affidavit of support. This affidavit of support is not required for loan sanction letters, and I will review loan sanction letters as well. Here's an example of an acceptable passport. The passport is in color, and all numbers are readable at the bottom of the passport. Now please disregard the dates. This is just an example. But your date of birth and the name as it appears on your passport must all match. That on your e-form. Finances. This is outlined on the I20 instructions that have been included in your decision letter, as well as those that have been included on the Data E form when you go to submit your I20 request. The estimated expenses for one academic year, including tuition, fees, and living expenses for the Boston campus, is $44,784. For students who will be studying information systems or the Internet of Things at our Silicon Valley campus, your estimated expenses that you must demonstrate on your I-20 request is $45,328. For students who will be studying data analytics or information systems at the Seattle campus, you must demonstrate $42,703. We often see examples of mixed documents, meaning that a student will submit a savings account from personal funds or a family member that covers part of the expenses, and an educational loan that covers the additional expenses. This is perfectly acceptable. We have many opportunities to fund your degree. The Graduate Co-op Program is a paid opportunity that can help fund your second year of studies, as you must complete 1 year before you can pursue a graduate paid co-op. International students may visit the Student Financial Services website to learn more information about scholarships that are available. Certain students may qualify for U.S. federal aid, which can also be found on the Student Financial Services website. Most of our students fund their education through family and personal funds, as well as educational loans. Fixed deposits. We cannot accept fixed deposits without a maturity date that is prior to the program start date, meaning that your fixed deposit must confirm that the funds mature on or before September 7th, 2019. If your fixed deposit does not have a maturity date, your document will be denied. If your bank writes a statement that says, "These funds may be withdrawn at any time," we will accept your financial document. This is very important for students to know because this is the #1 mistake that we receive on I-20 requests. So again, fixed deposits are not accepted unless there is a maturity date on or before the program start date, and or your bank has written a statement that says the funds may be withdrawn at any time. The date of issuance on your fixed deposit must be 9 months before the program start date. So if your bank has issued a document dated November 2018, we cannot accept that document. Your documents must be dated in the 2019 year. Balance certificates. Many students will plan to submit a balance certificate as part of the I-20 process. These are accepted as long as the account type is listed in writing as savings, or, as you can see in this example here, the available balance is equivalent to, and it would say enough to cover the program. If it is simply a balance certificate, but does not confirm that the account type is savings, or that the funds may be withdrawn at any time, your document will be denied. Chinese Certificate of deposits are also acceptable as long as the maturity date and the end date is prior to the program start date. If the funds are frozen, they must be released prior to the program start date. Affidavits of financial support. Affidavits are required for any family member or friend who is sponsoring your education and is not your father, mother, sister, brother, or spouse. Many students wonder what the affidavit should look like. Here you can see an example of the affidavit support letter that may be found on the OGS website. This is an example of an acceptable affidavit. Any other affidavit in writing, it does not need to be formally stamped, is also acceptable as long as it contains most of the information that's on this form. Please note that any documents that do not meet the federal regulations that are outlined on this webinar cannot be accepted. We're not able to make exceptions for students as this is a federal policy that the university is required to follow. Any documents that are submitted on time and are following all of our policies should expect to receive an I-20 ready for shipment in 3 to 6 weeks. So please be sure to follow the instructions that I've outlined here carefully so that you don't have any delays in your process. The details. So you've submitted your I-20 request. You've gotten approval from both the admissions pre-arrival team as well as the Office of Global Services, and your document is ready for shipment. What happens next? It is against federal law for us to send a digital copy of your I-20 request. So please don't ask us to send an electronic copy of your I-20 because it is illegal for us to do so. This is for your own security purpose and to ensure that the document is received by the person for which it is intended for. We can, however, release your I-20 to somebody that is here on campus and for whom will hand deliver the document to you. So if you have a friend who is a Northeastern student or in the Boston or Seattle or Silicon Valley area, and they will be traveling to wherever you are in the world, then they can pick up your I-20 document with your authorization and they can bring it to you. It is also illegal for them to send a digital copy of your I-20, and there can be quite serious penalties for anyone who does this. So please don't ask your friends to send you a digital copy either. That's very important. We work with a company called eShip Global to ship I-20 documents. eShip Global offers personalized tracking, expedited shipping, and global delivery. Once your I-20 is ready for shipment, you will receive a notification from the Office of Global Services to complete your eShip Global packing label if you have indicated that you would like your I-20 mailed to you. This is when you will submit the address for which your I-20 will be sent to. And the Office of Global Services will be the ones to actually physically ship your I-20 to you. Once the I-20 has been shipped, you will be given a tracking number so that you may follow the I-20. For students who are in a country that is impacted by the executive order, know that we work very closely with eShip Global to ensure that your I-20 is with you. And we provide letters of support for those 7 countries for which will help in delivering your I-20. Contacting staff. We will contact you if there's a problem with your request. As mentioned before, due to the high volume of requests and priority that we give to processing the I-20s, we kindly ask that you please remain patient and wait before contacting a member of our team to ensure that we have an opportunity to closely review all of the I-20 requests and know that we will contact you via the email that you have provided on your Data E-form if there's any questions or concerns about your I-20. But if you have an urgent question, such as an error that's on your Data E-form, or if you have submitted the incorrect document, you can certainly email us. You can see here a list of emails for the admissions team and the Office of Global Services. However, requests on the status of your I-20 or requests to expedite your I-20 will not be prioritized, as we need to be sure that we review the I-20 requests in a timely fashion, and we've provided you directly with the tools to track your I-20 through the OGS portal. If you have already submitted your I-20 request and realize since attending this webinar that the documents you've submitted do not meet our criteria, you may log in and cancel your current request and resubmit. This will ensure that there's no delay in your I-20 and won't be a problem for the admissions pre-arrival team at all. And now that you're equipped and ready to submit your I-20, I wanted to share with you some pictures of our 3 campuses to get you excited for where you'll be joining. Our first campus is here in Boston, which is where I'm located. It currently looks more like the top left-hand corner, where we have a lot of snow on the ground and some cold weather. You can see that the individual in the photo is wearing a hat and winter coats. Don't worry, you won't have to ski through campus, but it is quite cold here at this time of year. But when you come to campus in the fall, you can expect it to look like the lower left-hand corner. Green grass, beautiful trees, and the flowers in full bloom. Boston is an incredible city. It is a tech hub. We have very close affiliations with many of the other institutions and museums and organizations and industry and startups all around the city. And for those of you who will be joining in Boston, I think that you will find this a very enjoyable academic and personal experience. For those of you who would be joining in our Seattle campus, you'll be working with Laura Iwani on your I-20 requests. Seattle is a beautiful city. It is filled with many opportunities to explore the western side of the United States and nature. The Seattle campus sits right near the Amazon campus and has incredible opportunities for our data analytics and information systems students to pursue co-ops with some of the leading tech companies. And last but certainly not least is our Silicon Valley campus. Silicon Valley is tech central here in the United States. It is perfectly appropriate for our information systems and Internet of Things students. It is filled with adventure, it is filled with tech companies and opportunities for co-op and work. Students who enjoy the cold can find opportunities to ski and snowboard just a short drive from Silicon Valley. And also within driving distance are the beautiful beaches of California. And with that, I am excited to bring Rohan Naik onto the line to introduce himself and to talk about some experiences that he had with the I20 process and to offer you all some advice. Welcome,
Yeah,
Rohan.
yeah. Thank you so much, Kelly. Good morning, all. Thank you for joining in. It's great to see you all here. So, just a quick introduction about myself. My name is Rohan Naik. I am a current second year graduate student pursuing my master's in information systems. I completed my co-op working as a business intelligence developer with Stop and Shop. Um, so, just sharing my experience or kind of how did I go through this entire process. Uh, I'm basically from Mumbai, India, and just to tell you give you an idea of my background, and so that you can understand, or you can draw lines of how common it would be for me when it comes to handling this process. Uh, First thing, I understand it's a tedious process, it's a time-consuming process, and it's a long one. But uh, as Kelly mentioned, all through this webinar, there are ways you can, use the resources that is being provided to you in order to, efficiently complete this entire process. Also, my personal experience or how did I go about doing it was something like I had a student loan and personal finances which I clubbed together in order to meet my I20 amount. So that was how I tried to bring up my finances in place. Moreover, it was mostly funded by fixed deposits, which had, as Kelly mentioned, a future you know expiring date, so that it can be credited and taken back into your account. So that's what she means when she is saying that it should have a future expiring date. Uh, Also, one quick advice that I would wish to give here is something like if you have any questions related to this, you should be, contacting the university rather than relying on any third party counselors who have very less knowledge on this. That would, in fact, take up your more time when you're in the application process and would add to your frustration. So it's always better to get your questions answered from reliable resources, if that makes sense. Also, the most important thing in this entire process is being patient. um, you keeping on asking questions on your I20 status would not change it. It would take its own time to complete because that's a federal government document, and there are more than 5,000 students each year coming into Northeastern. So having said that, it's not only graduate students, it's also undergraduate community that's at Northeastern from across the world. So all this process takes a lot of time to be completed because there's a lot of uh, approvals that needs to be made before the I20 documents is in your hand. So please be patient. Kelly and her entire team is taking efforts day in and day out in order to get your I20s in place and shipped to your home countries, because we understand that you need to then apply for your visas, and that's that is that is again a time consuming process. So be rest assured that you would be intimated on the status of your I20, and be sure to ask questions from reliable resources. So yeah, that's it from my end, Kelly.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Rohan. And for
You're
those of
welcome.
you who are joining the webinar, Rohan is, as he mentioned, in the Information Systems program here in Boston, but we also have students in our Seattle and our Silicon Valley campus, and they're here to help answer as many questions as they can. They won't be able to check the status of your I-20. That's something that you can do by logging into My OGS. But otherwise, they can certainly help answer as many questions as possible, just to give them time because they are graduate students here, and so they're working toward their own master's degree, and they work as quickly as they can. Okay, so what's next? For those of you who are joining this webinar, it is for admitted students only, and so congratulations on your acceptance. We are so looking forward to having you here at Northeastern. Please be sure to log in and confirm your enrollment by paying your $100 non-refundable deposit. Some of you have asked, I have already received an acceptance in one program, and I'm waiting to hear on my second program of interest. If you pay your $100 deposit now, we can transfer that should you be accepted into your secondary program of interest, for which the decisions will be made anytime between now and the end of April. If you are waiting for a secondary program of interest and that is your preferred program, please do not submit your I-20 request until you have received a decision on that program. Once you have submitted your I-20 request, we can neither change your program nor your campus. If you are studying information systems or Internet of Things and you have been accepted to the Boston campus but wish to transfer to Silicon Valley, that's no problem at all. We're happy to make that change for you and very excited for your interest in the West Coast campuses. Please just email a member of the admissions team, or easiest is the Husky Desk email, and let us know with your AYID that you would like to change campus, and we would be happy to make that change in the system for you. Again, this must be done before you submit your I-20 request. This is also true for students who are interested in data analytics or information systems in our Seattle campus, but have been admitted to the Boston campus. We are happy to update your campus preference. Simply send us an email and we will eagerly send your request on for an update to the system so that you may study in Seattle. Again, before you submit your I-20 request. Once your I-20 request is submitted, that is your confirmed campus and program for that semester. The I-20 process should be initiated as soon as possible, with a deadline of May 2019 for international students who are outside of the United States. Look for your orientation and your course registration emails in the summer timeframe, but also know that many of our programs here will not send course information until you come for your program-specific orientation. This is very important because many of our programs look for registration, course registration in the summertime. But if you are in a program such as information systems, your course registration will take place when you're here on campus. Okay, I'm going to open the floor up to many of the questions that we've received through the chat and Q&A window. I thank you all so much for your thoughtfulness in your questions. There have been some really good ones that have come through. The first is, I've submitted my I-20 request, but my form says incomplete. What does that mean? That means that your form is under review by the admissions pre-arrival team. No further action is needed from you, and you'll see that status change in about 1 to 2 weeks, so remain patient. I'm an Iranian student. Am I able to receive an I-20 and have it shipped to Iran? Yes, absolutely. We have support letters that we provide with an I-20 for any of the 7 countries that are in the executive order. And we have had success over the past few semesters in having an I-20 shipped to one of the countries that are impacted by the executive order. I've made a mistake on my submission. How can I fix this? Please go in and cancel your I-20 request and resubmit, and this will actually avoid delays in the process rather than us having to reach out to you and get new documents and needing to upload them. So just cancel your request and resubmit it. It's no problem at all and will actually help it move along quicker. Are you able to expedite the I-20 process? No, we are not able to expedite the I-20 process. All I-20s are reviewed in the order for which they're received. We know that visa slots fill up very quickly, and as such, it's very important that you do your part in ensuring that your documents are submitted correctly and on time. If you have a question on your document, you should refer to the Office of Global Services website. The admissions team will not pre-review documents if you send us an email. We unfortunately have to prioritize the I-20 requests that have been submitted, and we ask that you do your best to ensure that your documents meet all of our guidelines. And we thank you so much for your understanding on that. I'm in the West Coast campus. Will that impact my I-20? It will not impact your I-20. Your process is the exact same. We have personnel that are in our Seattle and our Silicon Valley campuses who issue the I-20s. So if you have a friend that is already in the campus and they'll be traveling to you and you want them to pick up the I-20 from Seattle or Silicon Valley, that's no problem. And of course, we have a large team here in Boston who also does the I-20 reviews. I have a balance certificate that lists a salary account. Will this be accepted? No, that is not an acceptable document. We must have a confirmation that the funds may be withdrawn at any time. Will a solvency certificate be accepted? No. A solvency certificate is not accepted unless the bank writes a statement that the funds may be withdrawn at any time. Will I receive a paper copy of the I-20 form? Yes, you will receive a paper copy of the I-20, and in fact, that is the only form for which you will receive your I-20. We do not send electronic copies of the I-20s as it is against federal law. Is a loan sanction letter accepted? Please pay very close attention to this because we see a lot of questions and concerns and errors with loan sanction letters. Loan sanction letters are accepted as long as the funds are available to Northeastern University and there are not conditions that restrict the distribution of funds. Will mutual funds be accepted with liquidity? If the bank writes that the funds may be withdrawn at any time, yes, mutual funds will be accepted with liquidity. If it is just mutual funds or any other form of investment funds or a non-liquid form, we cannot accept housing certificates or a confirmation of any other asset. It must be with liquidity, meaning it must say in writing that the funds may be withdrawn at any time. If you have any questions on your document and you're not sure if it's acceptable, the safest thing to do is to have the bank write that the funds may be withdrawn at any time. The maturity date for a Chinese document can be a bit complicated. If your maturity date is outside of the program start date, but it says that the funds are frozen for 0 days, we can often accept it, but the best practice is to have the bank write that the maturity date is on or before September 2019. It's just easier to have documents that are very straightforward so that we don't have to go through approval channels internally that will cause delays in your I-20 process. Can a green card holder support me? If you're referring to a green card holder supporting you financially, absolutely. If they are providing you with an affidavit, if they are not a spouse, mother, father, sister, or brother. Any other form of support we don't work with. We only issue F1 visas for initial students and transfer in students. I'm currently here in the United States on an F1. I'll be changing universities, but will be going home to do so. Do I still need to complete a transfer in form? No. If you will be re-entering the United States on a new I-20, meaning that you will leave and come back, you do not need a transfer in form, as long as you are entering the United States on a new initial I-20. If you will just be transferring in your current I-20 from another institution, then yes, you do need to complete a transfer in form. Okay, there are many questions coming in and the chat window keeps moving, so just bear with me as I try to filter through the additional questions that have come in. Does the currency of fixed deposit or bank balance need to be shown in dollars? Yes, that would be best. There are banks that will write the amount that is available for immediate withdrawal. This is really important for fixed deposits and bank balance. And it will say the amount in the currency, the home currency, and then it will say this is equivalent to, for example, 60,000 US dollars. Can we have fixed deposits as financial proof with withdrawal that they can be withdrawn at any time? Fixed deposits are not accepted. Fixed deposits are accepted if the maturity date is written that it is before the program start date, or if the bank writes that the funds may be withdrawn at any time. If you submit just a fixed deposit document, your document will be denied. If you are receiving an error when starting your My Northeastern account, please use the zip code here, 02115. And this should help fix the problem. If not, you'll need to contact Northeastern IS&T. The admissions team is not a technical team, and so we can't assist with technical stuff. But we can direct you to the Northeastern IS&T, who is a phenomenal group of tech gurus that can help to problem solve. So just send them an email or give them a call. If it is a joint savings account between your mother and yourself, an affidavit of support is not needed for two reasons. One is that an affidavit of support is not needed from a mother. So even if it was just her account, we don't need an affidavit of support. But if it is a joint account between you and someone who is not your mother, father, sister, brother, or spouse, but your name is on the account, we also do not need an affidavit of support. We can admit bank balance certificates from two banks if the balance certificate says that the funds are in a savings account. If it is just a bank balance certificate, your account will be denied. Fixed deposits that only list the principal amount and not a maturity amount will not be accepted. The amount of funds that need to be shown are those that are on the slide. Let me go back here. So each campus has a different amount that is required. Here you are. So Boston, students must demonstrate, you can see in the first column, and then the two West Coast campuses in the corresponding columns. This is how much you need to show in liquid funds when submitting your I-20 request. You do not need to show more than that, but we will not accept less than that. Someone wrote that a deposit of 100 is good. That's not too much. Thank you. I'm very glad to hear that. It's good feedback for us, and I'll be sure to bring that to leadership to let them know. Again, I-20 requests should be submitted by May 2019, although we do recommend that you submit your request as soon as you're able to. Data analytics is offered in Seattle and our Boston campus, and so you may choose whichever campus you'd like to pursue data analytics at prior to submitting your I-20 requests. A student asks, my family is sponsoring with fixed deposits and I have my bank document prepared. So since it is family, the support document is not necessary, right? If it is your father, mother, sister, brother, or spouse, and the fixed deposits confirm that they are liquid and can be withdrawn at any time, it will be an acceptable document. For personal savings, is it necessary to have a bank letter or a bank statement? Anything that indicates your name, the amount in the savings account, the date of the statement, and the bank information is acceptable. Will this webinar take place again? Yes, we will have another webinar in the April timeframe. And I will also send a recording for those of you who have joined today. If we submit a bank statement, how long does it need to be? A bank statement must be dated anytime between January 2019 and today. It cannot be dated prior. It cannot be a 2018 date, and the funds must be available before September 2019. If you've not received information about the I-20 process, but you have received an official acceptance from Northeastern, you should log into your decision letter, and the link is available in your decision letter. If you still haven't received the link, please send an email to our Husky desk, and a member of the admissions team would be happy to resend you the link. Will there be any issue if the I-20 amount is covered only by a loan and no fixed deposits? Of course, that's no problem at all. That's how I funded my own master's degree, was through an educational loan, and that's no problem at all. One thing that I want to note is that if you go in for a visa interview and you are put under what's called administrative processing, this doesn't happen often, but it does happen occasionally. Please contact a member of the admissions team because we will work with our legal department here to get you documents that can assist in getting you out of administrative processing. That doesn't happen often, but if it does, please contact us because we have resources, a legal team here at Northeastern to help with students that do face that. If you have fixed deposits and a savings account on one statement, but the fixed deposits does not show a maturity date, or there's not a statement that all funds can be withdrawn at any time, we can only accept the savings account. So if your savings account does not meet the financial minimum, your document will be denied. There's no requirement for when the funds must have been deposited. They could have been deposited 20 years ago, but as long as the bank confirms that the funds are available now and your statement is dated between January 2019 and today, that's a perfectly acceptable document. Some people have families that have saved up for many, many years for them to pursue higher education, and that's perfectly acceptable, no problem at all. Students are asking for the estimated expenses for 2 years. Please just multiply the amount that we've provided you with by 2. As you can see from the slide on the screen, this is an estimated expense for 1 year. So 2 years will be twice that amount. If you are currently in a situation where you're in OPT and you're not in the US, I recommend that you contact the Office of Global Services to make sure that you complete the correct Data E form. They can best advise you on the I-20 and the visa process. Can I use my own savings account to sponsor me? Absolutely. A person who is a current permanent resident in the United States does not need to complete the I-20 form. Only students who are coming in as an initial student on an F1 visa or is currently within the United States on an F1 visa and transferring to Northeastern. We've received many, many questions and doing our best to answer all of them. I hope that we have been able to answer most of the questions that you've had. Can you show real estate properties in an I-20? No, real estate properties are not accepted.
Kelly, can I add a few things before we
Absolutely.
close
Would
up for the
love your
day?
help in answering the question.
Yeah, just giving in the student perspective,
Mm-hmm.
So I have been looking at all through the questions for a while now. So one quick thing, do not confuse yourself with too many things at the same time and too many suggestions or comments on that. So this platform or today's webinar should answer maximum like each and every questions of yours, because this is the only time you can get in touch directly with the admissions department or someone who would be actually approving your I-20 requests. So if you carefully paid attention towards today's webinar, you should be good to go and most of your questions should be answered. So why am I stressing on the point on being specific and asking your questions to a reliable resource is for the reason that um, there are certain set rules that you have to follow when you're coming to the United States. And it's not for you, or it has been like for all through the time. I have followed the same processes that need to be followed to get here. And I-20 is the most important document for you till the time you are, excuse me, till the time you are a student in the United States. So please pay very careful attention when you are submitting your I-20 request. It's a federal document, and the reason why it cannot be it cannot be mailed, you know, other than the eShip Global is for the same reason that it has some confidential numbers on it. So please consider this document with utmost importance when it comes to I-20s.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, if you have any questions, do let us know. But please be mindful and patient till the time we get back with the answer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
Thank
that's
you
it,
so
Kelly.
much, Rohan. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
that's such a good point. And we have many resources to help you, and a recording will be available following today's session. I should note that the examples that I've pulled from the internet, the documents, are not necessarily accurate in dates. They're just to show you what a document looks like. And on the right-hand side of each of them, I've outlined the details of an acceptable document. So they're just for visuals, but not necessarily acceptable. They're just examples. A student has asked, my mother is a government official and she has a savings in a fund. Will it be accepted for an I-20? If it is a savings account, it is acceptable. Loan sanction letters are acceptable as long as there is no criteria for circumstances for which the loan may not be dispersed, meaning if there are conditions, then it is not acceptable. If you have a loan approval letter, it must be a loan sanction letter confirming that the loan is available. Great question. A student asks, hi Kelly, if the total amount to complete the course is more than the I-20 amount, why do you check for financial capability for 1 year and not the whole program? That's a great question. Some answers for you is that the amount on the I-20 is for 1 year, just to ensure that a student is able to get here and support themselves for 1 year. Funding your master's program is financially very expensive, but at the same time, an excellent return on investment in your future. And I say that with empathy because I myself have just completed a master's degree here at Northeastern. And we don't want to put more financial stress on people than is required. Loans often begin to accrue interest from the date that the funds are issued. And we wouldn't want you to be paying twice the interest and putting a financial burden on yourself and your family. So we just require 1 year of finances. There are also opportunities here in the United States to fund your degree after 1 year of completing your program. Examples include the co-op, which is often a paid opportunity, not always, but often a paid opportunity and quite competitive. So our co-op salaries range anywhere from $18 to $35 per hour. It is a full-time position, meaning that students study a complete 40 hours per week. So if you did an 8-month co-op and you worked for a full 40 hours per week, you could make a significant amount of money to cover your expenses for your second year of academics. So we would not want you to be placing any financial requirements or any pressure on yourself or family or friends or through loans if there are opportunities once you're on campus to actually complete your education by paying it through other sources. That's an excellent question. Can I get a loan from 2 banks in order to fund my tuition and fees? Yes, absolutely. We can accept financial documents from many different places as long as they are all liquid. And if you are compiling financial documents from aunts and uncles, cousins, grandparents, please make sure that you have affidavits from each of those. Otherwise, there will definitely be a delay in your I-20 process. With that, we are out of time. I hope that I've answered most of your questions. If not, I will send a copy of the recording following today's webinar. I thank you all so much for your attendance today and for applying to Northeastern. Congratulations on your acceptance. We are so looking forward to welcoming you to campus. And we know that the process is stressful and can cause anxiety. We all have gone through the visa process here in the United States or elsewhere around the world. And so we all empathize and know how stressful it is. And we work our hardest to issue your I-20s as quickly as we can. Thank you all so much and wishing you a wonderful rest of your day and can't wait to meet you all when you're here on campus.